You don't own the land you live on. You don't control the infrastructure you depend on. You don't set the price of housing, energy, healthcare, or credit. But every month you still owe rent, not to a lord in a castle, but to a system that decides access before opportunity. And that raises an uncomfortable question. At what point does an economy stop being modern and start behaving like feudalism again? Welcome to The Financial Historian, where money, power, and history collide and nothing is ever as simple as it looks. When people hear the word feudalism, they picture armor, castles, kings, and peasants tied to the soil. It feels distant, primitive, obsolete, a system buried by progress and swept away by modernity. But feudalism wasn't really about swords or titles. It was about control of productive assets. In medieval Europe, land was the source of everything. Food, shelter, protection, survival itself. If you controlled land, you controlled life. If you didn't, your options were limited regardless of how hard you worked. Peasants weren't poor because they were lazy. They were constrained because they didn't own what mattered. So they entered into arrangements that were stable, predictable, and deeply unequal. Labor in exchange for access, loyalty in exchange for protection, rent in exchange for survival. This wasn't chaos, it was order. Feudalism worked precisely because it minimized uncertainty. Everyone knew their place. Mobility was rare. Ownership was concentrated, and stability mattered more than freedom. That's the part modern narratives leave out. Feudalism wasn't defeated because it was inefficient. It was disrupted because something else temporarily became more powerful than land. That something was capital. Industrialization broke the monopoly land had over survival. Factories replaced fields, cities replaced manors, wages replaced obligations. And for the first time, people could earn income without owning the underlying asset. This was the great promise of the modern economy. You didn't need land, you needed skills. You didn't need inheritance. You needed labor. You didn't need permission. You needed a job. Ownership still mattered, but it wasn't everything. For a while, access to income was enough. That window changed everything. The 19th and 20th centuries created something historically rare. A large middle class with rising wages, expanding ownership, and genuine upward mobility. Homes became attainable. Savings mattered. Labor had leverage. Productivity gains translated imperfectly but meaningfully into better lives. This period taught people a powerful lesson. They assumed it was permanent, but it wasn't a new equilibrium. It was a historical exception, because while land lost its dominance, ownership never lost its power. It simply shifted forms. Factories turned into corporations. Property turned into financial instruments. Infrastructure turned into balance sheets. And gradually, quietly, ownership began to reconcentrate, not through conquest, but through markets. No banners, no declarations, no villains, just incentives. By the late 20th century, the logic of the system had changed again. Capital became mobile. Assets appreciated faster than wages. Finance outpaced production, and access to the things that mattered. Housing, education, healthcare, energy increasingly depended on ongoing payment, not ownership. The old obligations returned to new clothing.